Good day, everyone. This is the Peaches and Policy Podcast. My name is Ettoro Yamatwin with the Atlanta Voice. Be sure to follow the Atlanta Voice on all social media platforms at the Atlanta Voice and on YouTube at Atlanta Voice. We have a special guest in the building today. He's State Representative Derrick Jackson, but he also has something else he'd like to say. And I'm going to let him say that right now.
All right. Ettoro, it's good to be with you, brother.
Good seeing you too, man.
Absolutely, man. Listen, I am excited. As you stated, I'm Derrick Jackson, represent the 68th District. And one of the things I discovered, when you think about where we are in our political arena and in our country and in our state, I look back over my life and say, what more can I do? Mm-hmm. And so when I look at the 22 years in the United States Navy as a retired naval officer, 10 years in corporate America, and now nearly 10 years under that gold dome, that's 42 years of proven leadership. That's 42 years of demonstrating of service, demonstrating what it looks like for those who look at what we can do while we can, when we can, and look at the blessings that God has bestowed upon us. And so what better way to announce my candidacy for governor of Georgia right here with the Atlanta Voice.
Congratulations.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Why now? Why make this announcement right now? Why is it so important that you run for governor in 2026?
I think the Dr. King said it best, the urgency of now. I mean, we often look at who else out there can step up to the plate instead of looking at the person that we look into the mirror every day. Mm-hmm. And so I said to myself, with things that are going on in our country and in particular in our state, what can I do to help the least of these? Mm-hmm. What can I do to be the voice of the voices? What can I do? And so I just look at that resume. 42 years of leading, improving, and battle testing. Certainly battle tested on 7 deployments in the United States Navy. I said, why am I looking for someone else to step up to the plate when God has blessed me and my family to be that one?
Absolutely.
And so here I am offering myself because God positioned me to be in a very good state of financially, physically, emotionally, and mentally capable to lead the great state of Georgia. Mm-hmm.
I want to lean into to your experience in leadership and also having that ability to fight and withstand pushback as we head towards potentially one of a very consequential election next year. How will that shape you heading toward the fierce primary fight that's coming to the fore now?
Yeah, listen, I understand that there are some already well-known Democrats that have already made their announcement to run for governor, and I understand there are more yet to come. But I asked the voters, I asked the Democratic Party, I asked Georgians as a whole, do we want to win and fight? Do we want to make sure that we're just going to keep recycling the same old names? Or do we want to make sure in 2026 that we're going to be true to who we are? Georgia is a very powerful state. It's because of Georgia is the reason why we have a Ketanji Brown Jackson.
This is true.
It's because of Georgia. The citizens of Georgia stepped up and say, it's time for us to have a United States Senator by the name of Raphael Warnock. It's time to have a United States Senator that's named John Ossoff. Mm-hmm. Who would have thought a ruby red, they so-called ruby red.
So-called,
right? Because I don't think we're ruby red. Mm-hmm. Ettoro, I think we are a strong magenta blue. Right? Because the citizens are going to be the ones who I believe in most. Mm-hmm. My faith and trust is in God. Right. But I believe the citizens want a fighter, which I am. They want someone with integrity, which I possess. They want someone with a resume that says, whoever the Republicans put up, this is our voice. This is our person. Right. And so I truly believe that the time is now. My resume is strong. And again, not to sound too braggadocious or too cocky or confident, but no other candidate on the Democratic side is going to put up 42 years resume like I have, right? And so the Democratic Party must ask themselves the question, do we want to win? Because this is not a high school popularity contest. Anybody can win, the primary. But do we want to win the general election? Right. That's what matters most. Absolutely. And I'm that candidate to win a general election. We talk about all the time, the differences, or it seems as though whenever we're in that Gold Dome, that there's Atlanta and then there's everybody else, right? Your wonderful wife, Camilla, she's from Albany, and that dynamic of Atlanta versus Georgia, right? If you were to become governor, how would you navigate that within the confines of being governor? Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of folks, Tyrone, don't know that my roots are rural Georgia. My mother was born and raised right in Waynesboro, Georgia, along with all of her siblings. My great-great-grandparents go back to the early 1800s. My first great-great-grandfather was a slave. They brought him through Charleston, South Carolina, and he ended up right here in Georgia in the early 1800s. And then his son was a slave, and then his grandson, which is my grandfather, was a sharecropper, and that became a farmer. And so my roots in Georgia goes back to the early 1800s. My mother, though, left Georgia in early 1960s, went up to New York. There was a big job boom. And up there, she became a nurse. Up there is where I was born as well. And me and my siblings born in New York. But the thing I shared that particular piece to address your question directly, yes, we often talk about Georgia in two different worlds under that Gold Dome. But because my roots are so deep in rural Georgia, I can't help but to look at Georgia as 159 counties. Right. I can't help but to look at Georgia 537 cities. I can't help but to look at Georgia urban, suburban, and rural. Because my mother taught me and raised me in a manner to say, you cannot leave anyone behind. And then that was intensified when I went into the Navy. You cannot leave anybody behind. And then when I went and worked at General Electric operated in 162 countries around the world. But even in GE said, every customer is important. You cannot leave now. And so with that kind of background, that kind of set of values and principles, I would be a governor for everyone. White, black, urban, suburban, rural, gay, straight. Listen, if Georgia is going to be successful and continue to be successful, we need to make sure every family in all these areas that I mentioned look at Georgia and say, Georgia's home. That I can thrive in Georgia. Every entrepreneur, I don't care if you're coming from Valdosta or up in Rome, Georgia, you should be able to look at the same entrepreneur that's in Atlanta, saying, I can birth an idea and it will survive, because Georgia is one of those states that will not leave not one entrepreneur behind, not one working class family members behind, regardless of one. And listen, I get it, because everybody's talking about DEI. Right. I think that's the other point that you're highlighting. Yes. Listen, I would be one that understand that there's strength in diversity and inclusion. and make sure that there's equity for everyone.
Right. Because one of the things that we do know is that, DEI equals cream, cash rules everything around me, you, everybody. And the more people you can draw to the table, it's better for business, it's better for consumers, it's better for suppliers. Like, this is a proven fact. One of the things that I also want to highlight is healthcare. I know everybody will point to the fact that Georgia has refused to expand Medicaid. In light of what the big ugly bill, as I like to call it, what that might turn into in Washington, how important has the stakes of Medicaid expansion gotten even higher in this moment?
Yeah, Toro, listen, if there's nothing else I have not learned from my late beloved mother, as she was one as a nurse, every time she walked in a patient's room, she didn't know if they were going to live or die. She didn't know if they had health insurance or not, right? She wanted to make sure that while she was on shift, that they were going to get the absolute best care. Now is the best time for us to all know that your health care needs to be accessible and affordable. And unfortunately, one of the ugly truths about Georgia, and you know this, covering under the Gold Dome, we could expand Medicaid a long time ago. We've been fighting for Medicaid expansion the last 15 years.
This is true.
Right? And most states, unlike Georgia, we're sitting on a huge surplus. And we have nearly $7 billion sitting on the table because one individual, the governor, refused to put his signature on a dotted line to say Medicaid expansion for Georgia. And because he refused and tried his Pathways program, which has been a failed program, 2 years ago he said he was going to have 150,000 on this Pathway program. To date, he has like 6,000. To date, we have nearly 1 million Georgians with little to no health care, and that number continues to grow. Why? Because there are a lot of Georgians who are still dealing with the after effects of COVID.
Right. This is true.
Right? And so during COVID, 40,000 Georgians died.
Right.
On the Republican governor's watch. 40,000 Georgians died. We don't talk about it, but it's a fact. And the reason why they don't talk about it because they know their Pathway program is set up for failure. It only take care of the top 1%, those who have insurance. And so I would be a governor that on day one to expand Medicaid. Well, what do you get when that happens, Arturo? To the essence of your question, hospitals will stay open. We will be able to bring more Medicaid patients, affordable health care, access to health care across all of Georgia, especially rural Georgia, because the last 12 hospitals that closed were being in rural Georgia. And so when you think about just simply a signature of a governor saying Medicaid expansion, that will increase jobs, keep hospitals open, and then it will put us on a true pathway to open up more accessible clinics across all of Georgia. There's no reason why, as rich and prosperous as we are, that we still have individuals who are dying. A young lady just recently in a vegetative state, they're keeping her alive because this state is giving more rights to an unborn fetus than the mother.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
That is a preventable death. And so we have one too many preventable deaths dying in Georgia. And so I will be called the healthcare governor because it will all be from the things that my mother taught me as a nurse, her 40 years as a nurse, to be compassionate and to make sure that we don't leave anyone behind And so we're going to make sure that there's accessible, quality health care across Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the mother you're talking about, she's brain dead. And they're keeping her alive because the baby hasn't been born yet. A similar thing happened in Texas where the state buried the fetus because the mother died while carrying the baby. But they said, well, the babies, you have the sanctity of life, as they say, right? But the sanctity of life should also include the health and the well-being of the mother. And as my mom, allow me to editorialize for a second, my mother's been delivering babies since 1995. So this is something that's near and dear and personal to me, because it's like in nobody's good conscience would you say, well, we have to prioritize the birth of the fetus over the health of the mother, the woman who's carrying what we all hope to be a fully sustainable fetus that will turn into a baby, someone's child, and memories will be built, and all these different things. So it pains me. Mm-hmm. It pains me. It sickens me. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you said that.
Mm-hmm. And we need more professionals like your mother, right? Who's simply doing a job of helping life not only come into this world, but to sustain it. So what does it mean for Georgia to say we're going to give all these rights to an unborn fetus, but our policies are far from sustaining life, right? What happens when the child, for the first 18 years of their life, where we got policies that's adversarial, right, to that child's life? And so we need more professionals like your mother. We need more nurses, OBGYNs. We need more midwives and doulas. We need more. I mean, Toro, listen, over 80 counties out of 159 counties do not have an OBGYN.
Right. This is true. It's very true.
Over 60 counties, Toro, do not have a pediatrician. So that is so appalling and pathetic to me, to where we have the data to say, and we got CDC in our backyard. We got NIH right here. And so we have the capability. We just lack the courage and the leadership. So that way we can empower other professionals like your mother to make sure they have all the resources that they need to bring to bear to help bring life to fruition in Georgia. There's no reason why 169 women lost their life trying to give birth. 772 children lost their life just trying to stay alive. Of that 169, 56% of them were Black women. We are the worst state when it comes to Black maternal health. We're the worst state when it comes to children sustaining a child's life. And so, yeah, I salute professionals like your mother, but I also know if your mother was in this room during this podcast and say, we need more. And these are the things that we need. And we are a very prosperous, wealthy state that we can deliver on that because we're sitting on billions and billions of dollars surplus.
I want to think my next to last question, I'm going to lean into the fact you are a life member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And, I remember being inside the Gold Dome when Alpha Phi Alpha did bring the lawsuit in regards to the voter maps and voting rights and all that good stuff. I believe in 2023, I believe it was. How important is civil rights to your campaign? And what are your initiatives that you plan on bringing to the fore during this process?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very powerful question as well. Without rights, Arturo, none of us, especially Black, bronze, brown community, members, we would not be able to survive in this country without rights.
Right.
I mean, we can talk about rights as early as the 13th Amendment that freed us. We can talk about the 14th Amendment that look at us as a full citizen, not 3/5 of a citizen. We can look at the 15th Amendment rights that gave us the right to vote. We can look at civil rights and those protections. We can look at voting rights, as you're mentioning. And to be a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, if you look at the lineage of alphas and other sororities and fraternities too, but in particular, to address your question, I think of Thurgood Marshall, good alpha man. I think of Dr. Martin Luther King, another good alpha man. I think of the late Charlie Rangel. I think about all those the shoulders I stand upon. And again, there were other fraternities and sororities too in this fight. But in particular, as a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, it takes me back to the point that I was making, to do as much as I can while I can. And Alpha led that fight to bring about a lawsuit to say that the gerrymandered districts in Georgia were unconstitutional. There's no reason why, Ettore, that in this day and age, we're still trying to gerrymander. And people will tell you, well, it happened on both sides. And I hate that false equivalency, right? But I would tell you that you as a voter should be able to select and elect who you want to represent you. It shouldn't be the other way around. I should not take the magical pen and pencil and draw in the voters I so desire, right? Let's bring in a neutral party, which is the reason why I continue to support the John Lewis Voting Rights Act that is yet to be stalled and not passed in this country. But the John Lewis Voting Rights Act would have nullified, it would reinforce what the Supreme Court took out in July of 2013, which is that pre-clearance requirement.
Right.
And so as soon as the Supreme Court did that in 2013, the Republicans had this long game, and their long game was, we're going to keep chipping away at civil rights, we're going to keep chipping away at voting rights, and get to a point to where black and brown people in this country will have no rights.
Exactly.
And so as a person that defended this country, over my lifetime, I've had the opportunity to personally recite the oath 17 times, raise my right hand, and place my left hand on the Bible 17 times. So the oath means something to me. The oath doesn't have an expiration date on it. And so I will be a governor to not only champion our rights, but I will fight against this Trump administration that's every day is passing executive orders. To the essence of your question, I will be the only Democratic fighter as a governor that would team up with the other 22 governors that brought about lawsuits against this administration. Georgia's not one of them. Georgia has not teamed up with the other 22 states and say, your executive orders are unconstitutional, and if I become the governor of Georgia, I will make sure I'll give the Trump administration a headache every day to protect and defend the Constitution and the rights of all Georgians, all 11 million of us. I would be that kind of governor that would give him a headache every day.
Absolutely.
And not tiptoe about it and not pull any punches.
Right.
Because you know me, I'm straight with no chaser.
Yeah, this is very true. This is very true.
I'm a different kind of Democrat, right? I'm not going to tiptoe.
You know, there's no tiptoeing. You're going in there and you say, hey, where you at? I'm looking for you, looking for you, looking for you, looking for you. Last question, and should have gotten to it earlier, but that's on me. How important is it? Because Georgia is the number one business in Georgia is agriculture. And back to the rural Georgia versus Atlanta kind of dynamic. But knowing that in Georgia, agriculture is number one, how important is it to center black farmers, black-owned farms, and black farmers in this conversation? Because I remember in 2023, I visited 3 black farms, and all of them said, hey, we are literally like a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest. You know, we lack the infrastructure, we lack the investment, we lack the tools to compete with the commercial farmers in our state. And as you know, there are commercial farmers sitting in the legislature. And they, you know, have their little caucus together, and they fight and make sure that their interests are protected. So if you become governor, what are the things you will propose to do in order that black farmers' interests are protected?
Yes, so as you alluded to earlier, when I think about my wife and where she's from, Albany, and one of the things I discovered when Camilla and I started dating, she represented Albany, as you know, for 2 terms. And while I was running for lieutenant governor back in 2022, she made it my business to go and talk to small black farmers. And resources is always their number one complaint, right? They were devastated by that tornado, but Georgia left them behind. All the other commercial farmers got their resources. They got replenished. They got the things that they needed from the state. Black farmers did not to the same ratio, right? And so I would be a governor, and this is not a platform, this is a promise, right? Because I think about my great-great-grandfathers, the ones who started off as a slave, then became a sharecropper, then became a farmer. I think about them, and if they only had the same level of resources as everyone else, because see, that's the bottom line. To the essence of your question, if we distribute resources unequivocally at the same rate, that agriculture, which is our number one industry in Georgia, it would not only bolster everyone, but it will put Georgia on fire, right? In a way that has never been done before. It's like asking your car, if you got an 8-cylinder car, and you asking your 8-cylinder car to run on 3 cylinders, because you left the other 5 cylinders home. Your car is not going to perform in the manner in which it was designed. So I'm saying, let's bring all farmers to the table,
right,
and figure out what they need. And they're always going to say they need more resources in the most equitable way. And that's the reason why I would be one of those governors that say that 1-to-1 ratio. If I'm going to give you X number of dollars, I got to be able to give you X number of dollars too. It's the same thing that we do with PWI versus HBCU. We do that the same way. You watch how that budget, which should be a moral document, right? Should be a moral document. But we end up giving more money to UGA and Georgia Tech, and then we keep leaving Clayton State behind, Morris Brown behind.
Right. This is true.
Payne College behind, Savannah State behind, Albany State behind.
Fort Valley
State.
And all the work that school does in their ag department supporting black farmers.
Absolutely. Right? And so, as a good Navy officer, high tide should lift all boats.
Right?
That's the kind of philosophy, that's the kind of leadership, that's the kind of courage I would bring to the governor's mansion here in the state of Georgia.
Absolutely. So, how can the people get in touch with you? How can the people follow the campaign?
Yeah, so listen, I am truly honored. And again, my faith is in God, but my trust is in the people. And so I'm all things social media, Derrick, that's Derrick Jackson. I know there are 8 different ways you can spell Derrick, but there's only one correct way to spell my name. My mother told me it's in the dictionary. So Derrick Jackson. And then you can email me, voteDerrickJackson@gmail.com. And then last but not least, I'm always in the streets, right? I'm protesting with the people. I'm picketing with the people. I'm not hard to find. I'm out in these streets. Can't say much for my other Democratic contenders in this race, but nonetheless, that's on them. But I'm always in these streets, and you can find me, like I said, Derrick Jackson on IG, Facebook, Twitter, and then also voteDerrickJackson@gmail.com.
All right. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Peaches and Policy Podcast. My name is Tyrone Yamatwin. This right here is candidate for governor, Democratic candidate for governor, Derrick Jackson. Follow The Atlanta Voice on all social media platforms, once again, at The Atlanta Voice, and on YouTube at Atlanta Voice.